Welcome, everyone. I'm Steve Wyss, and I'm joined by Kevin Harper for the latest All Sports Betting Podcast T20 World Cup preview. So day one is out of the way, Kev. Mixed day of fortunes. Comfortably got the visa performance in for Namibia, despite him getting a duck. And close, very close with both the Sri Lankan top bat and top bowler bets. And UAE, I think they were very unlucky not to actually beat the Netherlands in the end. It was a close one, went to the second last ball. Thoughts?
Yeah, day of crossbar hitting really. Come out of it slightly down. I think we'll get that back over the course of the tournament, not least because two of our outrights in that group are leading, aren't they? And with the potential of a washout on the last day, they might only have to lead in one more game to get us paid out. So yeah, up and down. Pretty confident, pretty happy with the way I called the matches, but sometimes you need that luck in your favour. And like you say, we had a bit of seconditis, didn't we, over the course of the day?
Yeah, there was a crucial drop catch for UAE towards the end of that game, which I think if they'd taken that, they'd have won it. But very good start for two of the outrights. And actually, Visa's got a couple of wickets as well. So the Namibia team outright there was good. A bit of a shock result with Namibia beating Sri Lanka, of course, although you didn't actually rule it out, to be fair to you. So there are no mugs at all. We move on now to Group B. And West Indies versus Scotland. Remember, all the matches are played at Hobart, the Bellerive Oval. So if you want to check out my lovely Google Earth presentation of that, then do check out the Group B preview show. We've got bets for all these teams in the group. We've also got a couple of outright bets in the group, including Scotland to win it, of course, at a big 25-1 price. But we're going to start with conditions. And I took a look at the weather forecast for this game, and it's really interesting. Just move to the right screen now, here in Hobart. And doesn't look like there's going to be any rain, but it looks like an incredibly cold day, Kev. 12 degrees, that's all it's going to get up to. It's like one of my early season fixtures over here in the UK that I play in April, where you're absolutely freezing. You've got a double jumper on. I'd wear gloves if I could. And then amazingly, like for Tuesday, Wednesday, it goes up to 18 degrees. So I guess that's southerly wind from the Antarctic, but very cold conditions. I don't know if that's going to affect the actual cricket ball too much. What do you think?
That's a summer's day for you in Yorkshire, not an April one. But I guess it will do, wouldn't it? Because it's a tropical day for Scotland, and it's a bloody cold one for the Caribbean. So Scotland will be in their element here, won't they? And West Indies are going to go out to bat with 5 or 6 jumpers on, I would imagine.
Yeah, it certainly will. But it looks like no rain.
Which is the main thing for us.
Yeah. And no chance of bad light stopping play here because it's one of the matches is a day-night one, of course. But this one is the early kickoff, 3 p.m. Local time in Hobart there. It's a 5 a.m. job in the UK again. Let's get on to talk about both teams then, starting with the West Indies. And like I said, check out the Group B preview show and also the outright preview show for West Indies. A bit more detail there on them. But they are the strong favourites for the game, generally 1 to 10 in a lot of places. And, heading into this, have they done much in the way of warm-ups and things? Have they got any injuries?
In one warm-up game. They were due to have a second one, but everyone had their second game washed out, didn't they, with that rain that was around Melbourne towards the latter end of last week. They did play Australia in a series, though, prior to the official tournament warm-ups. And they were competitive in them. West Indies, they had nothing to lose there, really. It's totally different here. In terms of injuries, I've not heard of any injuries. They might get Shamar Brooks, the batter, available here. He was a late call-up to the squad, so he didn't play in that Australia series. He was a late call-up because Shimron Hetmeyer, the vice-captain of this side, missed his flight to Australia. So rather than put him on another one, they said, sod you then. And they picked Brooks instead. In true typical West Indies style, they're a bit of a basket case before they've even bowled a ball in the tournament.
Scotland then, and in the outright preview show for Group B, you've tipped them at 25-1 to win the group, which obviously if they win this game, and they're priced at 5-6 to 1 to beat the West Indies to win this one, you'd think they've got every chance of getting that group win. What are they like in terms of cricket, Kev? Briefly, I guess a lot might think Scotland's not going to be much good at cricket. Some might think, quite a well-known nation worldwide, they might be quite good. But you're not expecting them to be. You're certainly expecting them to be very competitive, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Like a lot of these lesser nations, when they're good, and when they're not good, they're terrible. If you think back, they beat England in an ODI in Scotland, probably going back 5 or so years now under Owen Morgan. That was a decent England side that
I
went.
thought I thought 300 odd was big scoring game, wasn't it?
Yep, scored 300. Callum McLeod got 100. Played really, really well. If you think back to this tournament a year ago, they beat Bangladesh in their opening game. Very similar situation to this. They were playing against the top team in the group in their first game, which everyone thought, well, if they come out of this competitive, they can win the last two and maybe qualify. They beat Bangladesh, then they won the last two. They went into the Super 12s. So they got plenty of experience in that. That was in Asian type conditions, albeit in the Middle East. These conditions should suit them a lot more. We kind of saw that with the Netherlands, didn't we? They were an absolute basket case, shambles really last year. Marginally better on Sunday, albeit the pressure of chasing down a score in the tournament almost got to them. And I think Scotland will be very similar. I think they'll be better for being in the conditions. I think they'll be competitive. As ever with a minnow side or an associate side, to give them the proper title, the key will be how they bowl at the death and whether they can get off to a good start with the bat. Neither team in that second game on Sunday got off to a good start with the bat, and it showed.
Let's talk about bets for the match. Then you've only got one particular bet, but first of all, who do you think is going to win the game? And are West Indies justifiable 1 to 10 favourites?
I mean, if the game's played 10 times, do West Indies win it 9? I'm not so sure they do. Maybe they might win it 7.5, 8 times. So, they should be nearer the sort of 1 to 5, 1 to 6 mark. If things come off for Scotland, then you just never know. I mean, you just look at that game there. The pressure of being a favourite and chasing a score or having to win a game. I mean, you look at the Sri Lanka game on Sunday. The pressure of chasing a score was clearly far too much for them. And so if Scotland bat first and put some runs on the board and get a couple of early wickets and all of a sudden everyone starts looking over their shoulders, then you just never know. The one thing with Scotland is, as I said, they can play with the freedom here because this is technically the toughest game in the group. The two that follow are much more winnable in terms of competitive standings within rankings and things. So they can just play with a bit of freedom here, and you just don't know with West Indies. Once their tail starts going down, they drag it behind them for an awful long time, don't they?
Is this ground here in Hobart, and we discussed it in the Group B preview show, it's going to be easier to chase here than it would be in the Geelong venue?
You would imagine so, but as I said in that preview show, this is not the Australian summer. This is pretty much bang in the middle of spring for Australia. Usually you won't get any Australian cricket of a proper nature until December. So we're very, very early in the summer. These pitches might just be a little underprepared, particularly with all the rain that's been down the east coast of Australia. I understand this is Tasmania, but it's still on the eastern side of Australia.
They've had flooding in Tasmania as well. I was looking at Google Maps and there's like several sites. So they've had rain, definitely.
So, these pitches could easily be underprepared. Could be an awful lot of moisture in them, so that'll help the seamers. So, in terms of the dimensions, yes, I get what you're saying about it being an easier ground to chase, but it's that pressure, isn't it? It's just that psychological pressure of having to get a score.
Yeah. So let's move on to this one bet you've got in the game. It's in the performance market and it's on a West Indian. This is Bet 365, I presume, Kev. I don't know if anyone else is offering performance markets yet, but it's, as a reminder, 1 point for a run, 10 points for a catch, 20 points for a wicket, 25 points for a stumping. Who's the man?
Jason Holder, Steve. Very, very good cricketer. Probably still one of the most underrated cricketers in the world, actually, because whenever teams are spoken about, even this West Indies side, you hear about Andre Russell, you hear about Dwayne Bravo back in the day, you hear about Sunil Narine, but you never really hear about Jason Holder, but he's a consistent performer. Here's my phrase again, he's a 3D cricketer. That means he'll bat, he'll bowl, and he's a decent fielder. He's not just a decent fielder, he's about 20 foot tall, so if someone smacks one down to him on the boundary, they've got to give it a right biff to get it over his head. So he takes an awful lot of catches. He goes right the way across the world playing the franchise leagues. He's played in the Big Bash before, so he'll know all about conditions in Hobart, because Hobart is one of the Big Bash grounds. Comes in off of a pretty successful Caribbean Premier League campaign. He bowls at the start of the innings. He was bowling at the death in that series against Australia, which will certainly help him take wickets. He's a really tall guy, so he's got an awful lot of bounce. And we saw in that opening day on Sunday that sometimes the ball just stays a little bit low if you bowl it just back of a length, and that's the ideal area for Jason Holder. He gives it a smack. He can also play the proper innings. I think he's got Test match double hundreds, hasn't he? So he can play the proper innings if West Indies are collapsing in a heap. He's probably going to bat at 6 in this side. So if they're 4 down early and they need to rebuild, he can play that innings. Or if he comes in and smacks it from ball 1, he can do that innings as well. All 3 scoring methods, they're all in play. A wicket and 12 runs covers us here. 2 wickets covers us here. 32 runs covers us here. We don't even need a catch. So, pretty happy with the over in this one.
Yeah, we saw yesterday with the David Visa bet. I mean, he scored a duck with the bat, but he's still covered with the ball. So there's lots of different ways. If you're this 3D cricketer, then and you contribute in a lot of different ways. He's got buckets of hands, hasn't he? Like, you just don't. It's almost impossible for him to drop a catch because his hands are so big. I've actually seen him bat live personally in a Test match, and I was mightily impressed with this guy. I think he scored maybe even 100. It was heading, certainly at least a good 50. So mightily impressive cricketer. All we need is 32 performance points from Jason Holder there. We'll finish the show by talking about the top Batsman Market for both teams. And just a couple of suggestions here. We've not actually got an official pick or anything. But the West Indies market, I mean, this could be anyone, couldn't it? There's so many potential guys that could be the top scorer. But if you had a spare tenner, who would your money be on?
Well, we're already on Brandon King outright, aren't we, for the West Indies? So I would probably go with him. I suspect in these day games, the conditions are going to be slightly tougher whilst the pitch sort of levels itself out a little bit. He's got a decent enough technique. So, yeah, I'd go with him.
Yeah, of course, we are on Brandon King, top West Indies tournament run scorer. Again, check out the Group B preview show for that one. Let's move on to a top bat suggestion for Scotland, actually. I don't think we've even talked really about Scottish batsmen yet on any of these episodes. So the favourite here is George Munsey. Is he a good favourite here? Is there an outsider that you could look at?
Well, Munsey's played county cricket for Hampshire and 1 or 2 others, and he probably is Scotland's best batter over a long period of time. Richie Berrington, the second one on that list, he's the captain. Callum McLeod, I mentioned, has got that century against England. But going further down the order, Michael Leask had quite a few good innings in the T20 World Cup last year. He's an all-rounder. He'll bat 6 or 7, can give it a bit of a biff. If you want a bit of value, he might be your one, because you probably want to stay away from the West Indies new ball, because Alzari Joseph and Jason Holder could be a bit lively on this pitch.
Yeah, good thinking there. Maybe Michael Leask could be a little bit of value. So on to recap then. Set for quite an interesting game. Just that one pick for the game. Jason Holder performance over 31.5 points. It's a 3-unit selection. And like I say, appreciate there'll be a lot of bookmakers around the world you're not going to be able to get that bet at. So it's at the minute quite specific to Bet365 over in the UK or worldwide. But hopefully as many of you can get on that as you can. Enjoy the match. Let's hope it's a good one. And we're rooting for Scotland here because we want them to win that group at a massive price.
We are rooting for them, and as Englishmen, that's not a good place to be. But we will happily wear our tartan clothes and support Scotland in this one.
Absolutely, certainly. All right, well, thanks very much for watching. Do hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Appreciate your time, and we will see you very soon for the next preview. Goodbye.